All right, good morning. Welcome to our session talking about Cloud Director, NSX migrating V to T, not T to V. We're really working on that topic. And we want to speak about what have we learned. So my name is Matthias Eisner, partner with Comdivision.
My name is Tobias Paschek, also partner at Comdivision.
All right, so that's us. We work mainly Cloud Director, NSX T, Toby on top, ALB, and all the automation piece. I love VRO, for example, but I think I'm the only one doing that. So a few words about Comdivision ourselves. We focus on three main pillars. We do a lot of architectural and consulting work. Secondly, we focus on how to operate infrastructure, supporting mainly service providers to deal with their infrastructure and support them running their business. And thirdly, we focus on education. So we create trainings, we create on-demand content. You can find us on YouTube trying to share knowledge with the community. The agenda for today, the three pitfalls migrating V to T, especially in the context of Cloud Director. Second, the preparation of the migration. And thirdly, the migration itself. These are the topics we're going to cover today. The three pitfalls. Toby, what do you think? T is just the next version of V?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the biggest issues. So many guys, so many people believe NSX V, NSX T, more or less the same name, so a quick and easy migration. And it's not the true. NSX T and NSX V are fully different products. They are working, they are acting different, and this is why mostly of the migrations are failing, because no one is prepared. The second one is, as mentioned before, NSX T is a new product. You must have a new design. You cannot grab your old NSX V design and say, okay, we will do now the update and everything is working. That will not work. And the last one, and this is something which is widely different when we talk about NSX T to NSX V migration for enterprise customers compared with Cloud Director customers or service providers. You must interact with your customer. So you need to talk with your customer to do the migration, because otherwise you will fail as well.
Right, so you are including or saying there might be a network outage, maybe.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Not having a design, why do a design? Just implement it. It just works out of the box, doesn't it? All right, so what do we think? T equals V, yes or no?
No. Talking about routing, we know how it was in NSX V. We have our edge service gateway, we have the distributed logical router, which maybe was in use or maybe was not in use. Normally we have the edge service gateway, then we have the customer networks, and everything was fine. It is not there. It has been fully moved away. So we have now our tier 0 gateways, which is provider managed, and we have our tier 1 gateways, which can be managed by the customer itself. But always, to be fair, these two components must be there. So we need to always have a tier 0 gateway and at least one tier 1 gateway per customer. To be fair, yes, there can be multiple tier 0 gateways, talking about VRF, talking about dedicated, depends what your customer would like to do, what your customer is requesting. The second thing is the distributed firewall. All of us which are running still on NSX V, we know, hey, okay, we can use the distributed firewall, but also we can use the edge service gateway firewall to doing firewalling between two customer networks. It's gone, because it is not working in NSX T anymore in this way. In NSX T, we need to use the distributed firewall, which means we need to rework our organization virtual data centers, bringing in data center groups, because the distributed firewall in NSX T with Cloud Director can be only utilized if we have the data center groups, which means we need to deploy maybe additional edge gateways, depending what the environment looks like and how the customer is going outside.
So maybe just a short side note, because you're implying on the edge, the firewall is just working on the uplink interface and not on the downlinks. That's caveat.
Yeah. The biggest pitfall, SSL VPN is gone. So there is no SSL VPN solution anymore in NSX T. There will never, to be fair, we have talked already with the BU There will never ever be a solution for that. So there is a knowledge base article available saying, hey, okay, if you are using SSL VPN in NSXV, please go to any third-party solution. Maybe from your preferred firewall vendor, like Fortinet, like Palo Alto, like Checkpoint, whatever, or you do some open source stuff like OpenVPN, stuff like this. But to be fair, it is gone. On the other hand, there is one not so broad used or so common information also available for us as a service provider. If we would like to have a user-based VPN, we are allowed, this is the only option where this is possible, to use the IPsec VPN of NSX T for user-based authentication. So this is supported, but only in the combination with Cloud Director, nothing else. So we can do a Windows, Linux, macOS IPsec VPN and terminate the VPN on our Tier 1 gateway. This would be an option.
Or design your work completely around the whole stack and suggest the customer placing a virtual machine inside their own IaaS part and run a VPN server based on a virtual machine. It's just suitable for a few connections. It's not the huge VPN throughput, yeah. But for access only, for administrative access, it works perfectly fine, like a jump host.
Or the other option, and there is a session tomorrow available from my colleague Sasha and Eve, you can maybe think about an SD-WAN solution. So this would also be an option that you'd think about an SD-WAN solution to do the connectivity to the customer virtual data center.
Right, let's focus on a very important topic.
Yeah. Still, and this issue is still there, to be fair. At the current moment, using a single IP doing VPN, doing SNAT or DNAT is not possible. This is still a big issue from NSX T. It has been solved with version 4, with now the new name NSX only.
No, it's just NSX.
It
not
is
NSX
just
only.
No, it is just NSX, so NSX T is also dead. No, just kidding. But still, in Cloud Director, it is an issue in the user interface that you cannot configure VPN and SNAT or DNAT into the tunnel with the same single IP address. This will be fixed with the release of Cloud Director 10.4.1 in a few couple of weeks. Yeah.
So if you plan to have multiple services for a single customer, always keep the stack in mind and do not try to solve everything with a single gateway for that customer. You can build a cascade. It's not an issue. Just serialize the services you would like to implement for a customer if needed.
And the last one I will hand over to Matthias because he is the guy of the automation. But to be fair, integration between vCenter, NSX, and Cloud Director is also different. Because now you have the capability of importing your whole NSX environment. You are not bounded to a single vCenter. Still, the limitation is there. A provider VDC can be only be a single cluster, but what you can do is you can have one NSX instance managing multiple vCenters, and all of the vCenters are also imported to Cloud Director.
And that gets very interesting if you have a customer who has a dedicated infrastructure with their own vCenter, and they might also get vCenter access using CPOM. Then you can use NSX T to provide network capabilities for that separate vCenter as well. The design. Design is not important. Never do a proper design, especially with NSX T. Or let's do a proper design.
Let's do a proper design. So really focus on NSX T. But to be fair, especially at the beginning, not focus on all of the NSX capabilities because they are still not supported by Cloud Director. For example, talking about NSX T federation. I know many of you are demanding these features because many say, hey, we have multiple data center sites. We would like to have each data center managed with a single instance, which is called NSX T federation. but it is still not supported from a Cloud Director perspective. It is on the roadmap, so it will come. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's do Q&A at the end, please.
Which is on the roadmap, which will come into the next releases, that also NSX T Federated or Federation will be supported by Cloud Director. Test. That's really one of the important parts. I really learned it from many customers together, or I get the feedback from many customers, having a proper test environment, play around with NSX T, do the math, have a look what's going on, how NSX is working, and then start with the final migration.
And do not forget, NSX T itself and the combination VCD, NSX T are completely different from a feature set. Always have the feature roadmap in mind, what is possible with VCD on top of NSX T. And if you need a certain feature and it's not down the road, think about building it outside of VCD and just import the service itself. That's possible anyway, right? Keep that in mind.
Yeah, play around, play. Have a look, hey, how is my BGP stuff going on? How is, if I'm using it, how is my OSPF stuff working? What features are there already on NSX T? Are these features also inside Cloud Director? No vCloud Director anymore for me. Is this feature there? Can this feature be configured? If not, maybe it is one option that you do an imported network only, so that you say, okay, the network will be fully managed outside of Cloud Director, and then I will just import it to Cloud Director.
What I'm curious about, by a quick show of hands, who's planning to use Terraform? Okay, cool, best of luck. So if you plan to use Terraform, be very careful in terms of what can be built using the Terraform provider of VCD for NSX T.
Yeah.
And that's a huge surprise. So if you plan to use Terraform, please have a proper planning how to use or leverage the Terraform provider, especially which.
Yeah. One big point here, there are two Terraform providers available nowadays. There's one Terraform provider available for NSX T, and the other one is for NSX T on VCD. And these are really two different stories.
Do not migrate without any preparation.
Yeah. As mentioned, talk with your customer. Have the capabilities of the migration tool itself. We will have a look at this in a couple of slides. The migration tool itself now is capable of doing just analytics. So having a current situation analytics, seeing, hey, okay, what stuff can be migrated without any thing.
The last one is awesome.
You need to have a new PVDC prepared with NSX T.
Initially,
which means we need maybe new hardware, or we need to move out some spare hosts from our current cluster. But this is also some big surprise for so many service providers saying, oh, this is not an in-place update. No, it is not an in-place update. This is a site-to-site installation, which means I need new hardware. Maybe the hardware should be supported for vSphere 7, which is also, we know it since...
8.
Yeah. No. We also know it since 5th of October, vSphere 6.5 and vSphere 6.7 are end of life. So now it is really time to go to vSphere 7. But it means we need maybe new hardware. We need to prepare an additional cluster. Since, I think, a couple of weeks, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, it is now supported that you can also utilize the cross vCenter migration. So before it was only possible to have a single vCenter, one cluster with NSX V, the other cluster with NSX T, and doing the migration. Now it is possible to have 2 vCenters, the old one with my NSX V cluster, and the new vCenter with the new NSX T prepared cluster. So this is now also possible to do a cross vCenter migration.
A short side note on the PVDC, it is still not possible to add NSX T to a PVDC once it has been created. it wasn't there, it's not here, it won't be there. So create the PVDC, including NSX T. Toby, your favorite part, the migration tool.
The migration tool. Migration tool is working. Migration tool is really working fine. It is working on Windows, it is working on Linux, whatever you would like to use. But there is always a but. The migration tool will not do any kind of changes to your customer's virtual data center. So the migration tool will just inform you and say, hey, okay, we can migrate or we cannot migrate because of this current situation. There is SSL VPN in use, there is a DNAT in use, there is any firewall rule, there is whatever kind of reason. This needs to be fixed by yourself. So this cannot be fixed by the migration tool. There is the migration itself. It is everything fine. We will not power off any kind of virtual machines. So the virtual machines will be running and will be migrated from source cluster to the destination cluster. But there is a short network interruption. So please also here, you need to engage your customer. You need to tell your customer, hey, will be a short interruption and then we are fine, good to go. And to be fair, and this is also something which is the migration tool offering you, the migration tool is working in 3 phases. So there is the pre-migration phase, so where everything of the stuff will get prepared, then the migration itself, and then the tool is stopping. Then the tool says, hey, okay, I have now switched over the whole network, I have switched over the whole virtual machines. Please test now if everything is working. And then you need to do the final step, you need to go to migration back and say, okay, everything is working, we can finalize the migration. And this is the perfect moment where you can call your customer, write him a Teams message, Slack, whatever, and say, hey, dear Mr. Customer, can you please test if your environment is working? If he comes back and say, hey, cool, everything is fine, everything is up and running, my monitoring says everything is fine, okay, we can finalize the migration. If the customer is coming back and says, hey, none of my stuff is working, there must be something messed up, also no problem. The migration tool itself has a rollback capability, so we can use the migration tool for rollback and bring everything to the originating state. As mentioned before, use the migration tool for analysis, so you can use the migration tool at any current date of time or day at a time, because it is just analytics. So the migration tool will just generate a report with the customer name also as well, but I need to remove the customer names, and give you a status. Can be migrated with additional preparation of work, and I have, to be fair, I haven't found an Excel saying, hey, cannot be migrated, but this is also be an option that there will be information cannot be migrated. You see the amount of virtual machines which are affected or which are in use in the VDC. So this is what we get from the analytics. Read the outcomes. Really have a look. Okay, hey, cool, can be migrated. Quick wins. So you get the feeling for the tool, you get the feeling how the migration process itself is working. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to do any preparation. Then, after we have done the whole quick wins, we need to focus on those guys. The advanced report, because there are always 2 Excel files. To be fair, it is not really an Excel file, it is in CSV available. One is just a summarization of your current environment, and the other one is the deeper look, where you see, hey, okay, what is now really blocking my migration? So as you can see here, we have here SSL VPN service, and we have here the syslog service configured. To be fair, syslog is configurable on NSX V from the customer perspective. It isn't there in NSX T. So this is the reason why for those 2 customers, for example, the migration is not possible. And yeah, on the other hand, we have the SSL VPN, then we know also, okay, dear Mr. Customer, we have an issue.
All right, let's focus on the migration process itself. We just start with a very simple customer having external network, OVDC network, VIAP, a few virtual machines, and NSX V in place. Right, let's start the migration process itself. So what happens?
So before we start with the migration, Matthias was a little bit too fast. We need to have already our Tier 0 gateway prepared. So this needs to be there. So then we kick in the migration. Then we say, okay, we would like to bring this customer to NSX T. One important part here are those two guys in the middle. We will do some kind of bridging. We will not do some kind, we will do a bridging. And the bridging in NSX T is working fully different than we know it from NSX V, because the bridging is happening on an edge node. So those edge nodes are running on our NSX V cluster. And on one hand, they have the old VXLAN, where our customer networks are, so like the org VDC routed, the org VDC isolated network, so these are our VXLAN networks. On the other hand, the edge node is connected to our overlay, so we can do the bridging. So we will connect the VXLAN network to the Geneve network. Let's talk afterwards.
Right. So that is key. So these are dedicated, you recommend having dedicated edge nodes.
So we have now the connectivity. So the connectivity is there. The next thing is that we need to interrupt or to stop the routing via NSX V. So this is what's happening next, that we switch over the routing from NSX V to NSX T. And then we know, okay, our whole north-south traffic is now already running via NSX T, because this one gets connected to a so-called dummy network. It's just a network without any external connectivity. And then we have the data already flowing on the north-south side via NSX T. Next slide, Matthias. So, as mentioned, all of this connectivity gets stopped, and then we have the flow outbound via NSX T. And this is the phase where you can contact your customer and saying, hey, okay, we are now doing the whole routing via NSX T, still everything working, okay? There will also be a short interruption, talking about 10, 30, up to 30 seconds, because it takes some time.
Plus the default gateway.
Plus the default gateway needs to be changed from NSX V to NSX T, depending on your enterprise architecture, so on your network architecture. If you use dynamic routing protocol, okay, it needs to be announced via BGP and stuff like this. Okay, but this is something...
On top, the cache of the virtual machine. So you change the MAC address of the default gateway.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind. So you lose connectivity. Just need to focus on the virtual machines.
Yeah, and last but not least, we will migrate the whole virtual machines from NSX V provider VDC to NSX T provider VDC. So yeah, still here we have the same limitation as always from vMotion perspective, Intel to Intel, AMD to AMD, nothing new here. We can use per VM enhanced vMotion compatibility to have here the migration possible, but yeah, that's the same.
So the usage of VCDA, for example, so Cloud Director availability is not mandatory.
Yeah.
So it could be used, but it's not mandatory.
And then the final step will be that the migration tool will remove all of the old stuff, will rename the new organization with the old name, everything there. So from a backup perspective, for example, it's the same virtual machines in the same vCenter or maybe in the new vCenter, but from a backup perspective, same unique ID, everything stays as it is.
Very nice.
Very nice.
So questions? Do we have a mic for questions? No questions? Oh.
No question. Okay,
all
then
right.
Let's talk also.
We're around. If you have any questions, just chase us down. We will be outside in the hang space, or whatever that is called. Thanks. Enjoy VMware Explore.
Not VMware.
And I did it. You did T2V once during the migration, the presentation. Awesome. All right, guys. Thanks.